Everybody, we know it has been an extremely long time, but your favorite two sports co-hosts are back. I am Stephen Cross II, aka Mr. Qualified, aka Mr. Know-It-All when it comes to sports, and my lovely co-host is
Ashley Wright, the first. Actually, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Since you're the second, does that technically make your dad the first? Or is he senior?
okay. So I think I don't know what's right because I've heard conflicting reports. So what my dad told me when I was growing up was that I was the second and not junior because I didn't have his exact name, like I didn't have
Oh.
his middle name. That's what he told me. Then apparently that's not the case, or that's not the case with some people. I
Mm.
don't know. So he's not a senior, nor is he a first.
Oh. So I can't say the first anymore. I'm still gonna say it. I'm Ashley Wright the first.
No, I was first. I feel like the first is dope. Uh,
Yeah.
ain't nothing wrong with two though. You know, second coming. There's a lot of things you can
Yeah.
play. So anyway, man, yeah, we are here. We're back. We are in the midst of the finals, the NBA finals. It's October. It's not usual, but here we are. The Los Angeles Lakers
What?
are are in the finals per the majority of people's expectations. That was not ours.
No.
But we will get to that later on in the show. But yeah, we'll just stick with the finals. So we're 3 games in at this point. The Lakers lead 2-1. Thoughts, concerns, questions, judgments.
I honestly, this series is going the way I thought it would go. The first game, honestly, though, I was a little bit disappointed in Miami. I feel like they weren't as physical, and they touched on this, especially Jimmy Butler touched on this after game 3. They didn't come out as physical as they should have. And Tyler Hero said that they felt punked after game 2, in which they definitely should have felt punked because AD was having his way. He was definitely bullying people. And not even AD, Dwight Howard has been extremely surprising in this final series. He looks like he's hungry for a ring, as he should be. But honestly, like, the Heat, I'm glad that they finally turned it around. I think Jimmy Butler is doing what he's now supposed to be doing as their superstar. Like we talked before the show started, Jimmy Butler was trying to be more of a facilitator than the scorer that he needs to be for that team. Like, you're the go-to, you're the number one. This is the finals. You're playing a LeBron James team, and LeBron James has been to more finals than, we have hands at this point. So
He's been to more finals than half the league. It's fine.
yeah, so it's like Miami really found what clicks for them, and I hope they continue to do so throughout the series to make it a little bit more competitive.
For sure. No, I agree with everything you said. I think we first need to touch on and acknowledge Jimmy and give him all of his flowers now.
Yes.
If you follow Jimmy's career, I mean, even learning his story of getting to Marquette, and then getting to the NBA, but even his story within the NBA of, Chicago decides to go a different route. They even when he emerged as the star, of that team, they decided to go a different route. He goes to Minnesota, which a lot of people see as a great fit. He's under Tibb. You got Cat, you got Wiggins. You think they have a big three. That doesn't work because I think if you pay attention to his come up in Chicago, I think that year where he went from kind of being a bench player to being the player that he is now, the player that was a foundation of who he is now back then. I think I remember the story of him saying like all he did was hoop, like all he did was play ball for like a summer. And when you hear him talk, that's what he does. Like, I hoop, I love ball, and I think you start to see that when you realize that as much as the media tries to paint it a different way, he was never the problem wherever
No.
he was. He was not the issue in Minnesota. He definitely wasn't the issue in Philly. And I think him being in Miami and what we've seen this year speaks even more to that because as we've heard all of them talk about it, but especially him, the culture and Miami as a team and the culture that they have fits who he is as a player. He has a lot of players around him with chips on their shoulder, and he has a big chip on his shoulder. So for him, all that being said, 40 points, 10 rebounds,
Yeah, man.
10 assists
Yeah.
with no threes, and he was guarding LeBron James.
Yes. Effectively too. Very much so effectively.
like, you can't ask for anything more. Even if they do lose 4-1, that's still arguably going to be a top 5 finals performance of all time because it was in a win at that as well. So I definitely want to give Jimmy his flowers there. I always thought the series was going to be interesting. I feel like the Lakers are going to win, but it's kind of hard to tell how. Not how they'll win as a team, but like how the series will go, because Miami is different. We were talking about it before. Miami, I think, is a different team and poses a different challenge than any other team they face.
Yes.
Portland was hobbled, and essentially you had Dame and you had CJ, but hobbled, and then once Dame got injured, it really became a null point at that point. Melo is Melo, and we love him personally, but I don't think Melo is.
He's not a viable second option.
Right.
Especially against a Lakers team. Not at all.
Exactly. So they fell short. Then you get Houston. And Houston posed a huge threat because of their guards. But I think what happened was, again, LA just they found their rhythm. And especially when LA is hitting shots. When LA is hitting shots around their 2 superstars doing what they do.
And I hate to say it, but like Russell Westbrook suiting up is easily 10 turnovers just by putting his jersey on. So like 10 turnovers, that's 20 fast break points. Like, come on now, you're playing the Lakers. And I love Russell. I don't want him to, like, in case he hears this, I don't want him to come for me. I love you, Russ, but you know that the turnovers are a problem.
You say he'll walk in 10 turnovers. That's rude. But it's
just
true.
By putting on the Rockets jersey.
That's hilarious. No, it is. And the Rockets got to figure something out too. I'm not saying small ball don't work, but what I am saying is if you're going to go small, I think you have to have more than Harden and Russ as a legitimate threat. I think that's the difference. You can go small, but you still need to have a small big that is just as effective as.
And I think, honestly, I'm glad you made that point, because the compare and contrast can really be made between Miami and the Rockets. They both play small ball, right? But the difference is, and even though Bam Adebayo is injured, his heart down there is way bigger than, like Robert Covington or PJ Tucker. Bam is going to bang, especially against an AD. He wants to prove himself like he's been doing throughout this season. So in this series where, it's the big stage, you've got Jimmy Butler at the helm who has said, I want the ball in my hands at these type of moments. They feed off of that, especially players like Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, who we saw meme mugging at the end of the game. Bro, you were 6 for 20 still meme mugging. I love it.
You got to. Hey, look,
I love it.
People that don't know where Tyler Hero was from.
Yeah.
He's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay,
Yeah.
We built like that. We breathe that. You know what I'm saying? He killed. No, he is putting on for the city. But again, it speaks to the culture there. I think you have to have that mentality that I can go 5 for 15. I'm gonna keep taking these shots. I'm gonna keep driving to the rim. I'm gonna keep playing. And that, they talk about it. Everybody wants to say Jimmy not a superstar. He's not a prolific scorer. That's something else Skip dumbass said. But anyway.
He be having you tight.
Because I want to respect the fact that you've been in this game for a while, but what do you be talking about? That's why the Cowboys ain't doing good. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We talk about the NBA.
That make me happy.
But yeah, no. But that culture, and again, like Tyler Hero, a rookie, but people, I think, him having to adjust, and people still seeing him as just this young kid, this young rookie. He wants to prove himself, like you said, Bam. And when you, as we see more players, you look at that team. Jay Crowder's always been a banger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You still have, I think Nunn isn't playing a lot, but Nunn had a great year. Nunn was third or second, I think, I can't remember, in Rookie of the Year voting.
Yeah.
So you still have somebody like that. Then when Bam goes down, you still have somebody like Myers Leonard, Kelly Olynyk. Very skilled bigs. Work within the offense perfectly. So you lose, I won't even say you lose heart, really, because they both play with heart and they both just play hard. And I think we haven't even mentioned the absence of Goran Dragic and how much of a loss that is. I mean, this is a dude that was averaging 21, 22 points, was the leading scorer throughout the entire playoffs and was a huge reason for a lot of their success. But I think Dragic being gone more than likely for the series. I mean, the foot stuff, he's not playing. But I think it leaves room for Jimmy to have the ability to do what he did in Game 3. And not saying he's going to come out and get another triple-double in general, let alone a 40-point triple-double, but he can have that mentality. And it's not so much it's a shift in mindset, but it's an adaptability that Jimmy, I feel like, is one of the very few players that possesses it. The ability to be like, okay, Dragic is gone, which means now I need to tap into this part of my game. And not so much a turn on, turn off thing, but he can tap into different parts of his game when necessary, which I think is what makes him and any team he's on, especially a team that's bought into him, extremely dangerous. So I'd agree. Lakers in 6, as we talked about before. I know you said that's what you think is going to happen. I think Game 4 will tell a lot. If Miami, by some grace, manages to get Game 4, they really might be in trouble. they really might be in trouble. Only because that's momentum. And now for the first time, the pressure would have shifted. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm not picking a winner for Game 4. Who knows? Who knows what can happen. I didn't think he was going to win Game 3. But
I turned it on. I was reluctant. I turned it on while I was doing homework, so I wasn't even focusing. Look, I look up. I'm like, hold on.
Really, I didn't watch Game 2. I didn't. I remember texting my friend like, "Is it even worth watching Game 2?" And I watched like a little bit of it, but no, I remember turning on the game. Like, I'll just have it on in the background. I kept checking the score. I was like, "Oh, they up."
Yeah.
They up 10?
Yeah. 14. I think they were up like 14 in the third.
10 turnovers in the first quarter. It's like, what's going on? I do hope this shapes up to still be a very good finals. Whether that's 5, 6, I just hope Miami fights like they did in Game 3 the rest of the series. That's all I want. If you lose, you lose, but just fight the way you fought. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, yeah. Well, that's the finals. But again, it's been some time, so we have to discuss all the craziness that has led us to having the finals that we have. So we'll just work our way backwards a little bit. So the conference finals.
Let's just start with the East. I don't want a headache. It's too early to have a headache in the show.
Right. So, the Miami-Boston series was really interesting because Boston, I think it's the first time we kind of figured out Boston's a piece away. Let's just say that. Boston's a piece away. And I think the only real difference was, and I'm not ashamed to use this argument, it's their first year. And it's the first year of Kemba, Jason, and Jalen really figuring out what that three-headed monster looks like. Because it's a dangerous three-headed monster as it is. But you still have to learn. I think you saw it late in games. They would kind of be unsure about who they wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. It would be between Kemba and Jason, which in a lot of ways I thought they should have played through Jalen a lot more, because I wouldn't say Jalen had mismatches, but he's such a dynamic player in the sense of he's a natural 3, playing the 4, the 5 entire game and holding his own. So I think if you give him the ball and he has a 4 or 5 guarding him, you can make a lot of work off that. We didn't see Boston do that. And I think we saw Kemba didn't have a horrible series, but he didn't play great. I think Tatum is still showing some very small signs of inconsistency. Nothing that concerns me, but just things that cost them the series. And when you're playing a team like Miami, you just can't afford to make some of the mistakes they make. I think losing Game 1 hurt not only the way they lost with the block, but I think that was a huge momentum swing in terms of just their morale. Like the game was essentially theirs, to win. But yeah, so it was an interesting series for me, but I'm also not too surprised at how it happened because I just think Boston isn't ready just yet with this current team. They're a piece away though. I wouldn't change too much about where they're at right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think the inconsistencies that Tatum showed just comes with being still a young player, though he's what 3 years in. He's still fairly young. And like you mentioned, I don't think they knew who they wanted to rely on at the end of the game. It was between those three players, and like you said, they showed also signs of, you know, do I want to take this shot? Do I want to pass this ball? Like I don't know what I want to do. And then they just needed somebody in the paint again to match the intensity of Bam Adebayo because he was not backing down. Like we saw that with the block that he had. And as you mentioned, that was huge in terms of momentum because now that gives Bam the confidence he needs to know that I can go up and contest anybody that's coming down here, regardless of if I have help defense or not. I got it. Like, and I think that's really honestly what shot Boston in the foot is they didn't have anybody down in the paint to match that intensity
And
at all.
I love Tice for their team. Like I think Tice is great. I'm not even necessarily mad at him in the starting lineup. I just still think I won't even say he needs to be prolific, but you need a stamped big for whatever role y'all need him to fill. He just needs to be stamped in that regard.
I think imagine like an Andre Drummond down there for them. It's totally different. It's extremely different.
Oh my God. Of all centers, like I wouldn't even think of him. If they had a Drummond, like love Bam, that would have been a great series and it would have changed everything. Because it just relieves a lot of pressure, natural pressure within the game. I will say though, Tatum needs to be the guy for Boston. And I don't think Kemba or Jalen should feel slighted in that regard because it's still just as important to the team. But Tatum has to be that guy. He's built to be that guy. He's built for that.
What makes you want to put the ball in Tatum's hands, though?
I think outside of his game just being, I think, the most efficient and the most dangerous in terms of actually scoring, I just think everything about his makeup is being that guy. You're talking about somebody who was an amazing high school player, went to Duke, was under Coach K. Learned under, Kyrie for 2 years, learned from Kobe. So this is somebody who has the makings and has the impressions and impact of some of your most prolific scorers and closers. And I think just naturally his mold, who he is, he seems to want to walk into that and embrace that. And I think if somebody is there and he's shown what he has in his first 3 years, he's not even in his prime yet. So I think when you look at that, it's like, he's going to learn along the way, but you got to give him the keys now. And the team needs to understand that. And not from a standpoint of like, he's, the superstar or the lone superstar, but that's his team. It needs to be his team. And I think any team needs to understand that to be able to make it to the next level. Like the Heat is Jimmy's team, but we all know that there's so many more moving pieces to that team. Boston can have the same type of makeup. That's Tatum's team, but he don't do nothing without Kemba, without, Jay. So I think that's what they need. But I think the fact that they have in the last 3 years lost in the Eastern Conference Finals twice, and then lost in the second round to the MVP of that season, I think shows a lot. And for Tatum and JB to have experienced that in their first couple of years, but definitely all their years together, Boston's going to be hungry, one, and they're going to be a problem once they get all the right pieces. Also want to shout out Marcus Smart. I don't think he's talked about enough as a utility player, but he showed up.
I really hope he goes back to Boston, but I don't know if he feels it. I don't think he feels it at all, and especially after reports of him like throwing the chair.
Does he?
Him allegedly.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows? I don't know what really happened. I do believe it was.
But it's like I don't know. I want Marcus Smart to go back to Boston.
Does he leave for a payday? Because I can imagine the payday being that glamorous that it's just easy to leave, especially when it's not like y'all aren't a top team in the East.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they'll need another piece, especially with Brooklyn, assumingly, being at full health coming back next season. Who knows what Toronto will look like? Who knows what Philly will look like? Who knows what Milwaukee will look like? The East, again, is kind of up in the air. So therefore, if they can keep a lot of what they have intact and just add that other piece, they'll be right at the top, honestly, as far as we know now. But yeah. So, Denver and LA.
Here comes the headache.
It's not.
I'm gonna go get an aspirin.
Not even the fact that this shouldn't have been the conference finals, because I don't want to discredit Denver, so we'll just speak about the series first. Denver was over. They were overmatched. Like it's.
Man, look.
Mike Malone is an amazing coach. And his players buy into him. And I think that's one of the most important things as a coach. So there's a lot to respect from Denver. I just think, one, they were severely outmatched just from a talent perspective. And two, that's just not what nobody wanted to see. I'm sorry to say it. Nobody wanted to see that. Nobody wanted to see Denver versus LA to see who goes to the finals. That's not that wasn't what was built up. That wasn't what we all been anticipating. That's what everybody said was going to happen.
I don't want this.
I mean, it was. I guess I'm a little bit happy for MPJ. A little bit.
Man, listen. I like Michael Porter Jr. Great. We saw those flashes. Jamal Murray, you came alive. I owe you a whole lot of praise. You get some flowers. Yes. And not any flowers. You get some roses because you played very well. Jokic, you get some roses too. You did what you were supposed to do. We look at you as the star of that team. You were definitely playing some big man basketball.
I mean, I guess at that point we might as well just get to the breakdown.
I ain't acknowledging them.
Look, listen.
The Nuggets were scrimmaging themselves.
Listen, man. This is all we got to say. Look, the Los Angeles Clippers. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear Pete. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear about low management. I don't want to hear about LA being nobody town but bronze. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to see no commercials. I don't want to see nothing. Y'all figure out how y'all blew a 3-1 lead first and foremost. Then on top of that, how your two best players essentially are nowhere to be found for the entirety of a Game 7.
I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. I was so disappointed in Kawhi Leonard.
Who? Who? That's who he was.
Who?
Where? Because
where
was he? Okay, where did Kawhi go? Because he wasn't there, and he looked out of it. Like I've never seen him look that way in a game. He ain't look confident. He ain't look like he wanted to be playing. Nothing. Like, what is it?
Man, Steve, the leading scorer in Game 7 for the Clippers was Montrezl Harrell with 20 points. Montrezl Harrell. Trez is a dog. I love Trez. So much heart. There's no way Trez is playing on the same team as Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and he is leading that team in points scored in a Game 7. There is no way that should be happening at all. No way. I would have felt better if Lou Williams led the team in scoring in Game 7. It was Montrezl.
Where was Lou? Where was Lou? Lou wasn't nowhere to be found. Literally everybody on the Clippers went ghost, except for Trez. Trez was the only one fighting. We called this, though, because they were struggling with Dallas. With Dallas. And if it wasn't for Porzingis getting that tech, and ultimately before he was, shelled for the series, they looked in trouble then, to be honest. So as much as this is shocking, I think it's more shocking because they had such a commanding lead. Now that anybody expected Denver to rattle off 3 games straight against who a lot of people thought were going to be the champion. But no, Kawhi, you got a lot to prove, brother. You did a lot.
Man, and I forgot who said it, but somebody said Kawhi doesn't have much to prove because he has 2 rings. But Kawhi, essentially, this is the team that you built. You went to LA, you handpicked Paul George, and Paul, I feel like you owe it to Kawhi to play your best basketball. And I understand. I do want to acknowledge the fact that he pointed out his mental health. But after one of the wins in the playoffs, he pointed it out and was basically like, I'm getting better now. In Game 7, that didn't reflect your statement at all.
It didn't. I've never watched the game and asked myself so many times, is this really about to happen? Because it was just so, like, I'm watching, I was like, okay, it's 4th quarter. All right, it's 9 minutes left. Okay, it's 6 minutes left. Okay, it's 3 minutes left.
When did you start to panic?
No, okay, I was panicking the entire game. Don't get me wrong.
Oh.
Because it never looked good. They never looked good. So I was like, it doesn't look like they want to win this game. And Denver had nothing to lose. So they just out there. But as the 4th quarter went on, I'm like, they not hitting shots. Like, they weren't hitting anything. Kawhi wasn't hitting nothing. Kawhi wasn't getting, I mean, there was nothing to be called, but like there was nothing happening. Calls were non-existent. I'm sitting here like, y'all are about to lose this series. And like you said, this was a team you built. This was a move that you made happen. You made the big splash saying, oh, I'm going to LA. Oh, I'm bringing Paul George. I still kind of don't know why Paul George was the player that you picked. I mean, I get it, the Los Angeles connection and whatnot. But Paul George don't really have a track record of being able to take you to the next level. But Kawhi, you Kawhi. So you the all-star. Okay, you the champion, not me. But and here y'all are. And you got the coach fired. Trash.
Man.
Trash.
After 1 year of coaching that team too.
Doc didn't deserve that.
I don't know if I would have made that move.
The only reason I really disagree with it was because if you was gonna fire Doc, you should have fired him after Lob City failed. But if you weren't gonna fire him then, and you was gonna let him go through the rebuilding process, take that team to the not championship, but the playoffs last year, push Golden State to 6, and then the first time, not on his accord, but his players not showing up. Now you toss him.
Mm-hmm.
I get that he's blown some leads. I understand that. I understand he has a blemish as well in terms of that, but you got to give him at least 2 with that.
Yeah.
With a team like that, you got to give him another year. You can't, because now the coach, whoever come in as a coach,
they're essentially in the same position that Doc was in. Yeah, that's Doc's system, but at the same time, these are brand new players, like you said, so you got to at least give them 2 years. But the new coach that they have coming in, whoever that may be, is basically in the same boat.
What if it's Pop?
Ooh. Was Pop the problem to Kawhi in San Antonio?
No, Pop. The problem in San Antonio was Kawhi. Nobody wants to admit that, but it was Kawhi. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but like, he felt how he felt. He wanted to get his second opinions. He wanted to have his own team and not be in the shadow anymore. It is what it is, but he wanted out. Like, that's what it was. So it's not Pop's fault. I don't even know if him and Pop like necessarily have a bad relationship. I don't think they do. Yeah. But that would be interesting. But I don't know who's going to coach that team. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind them, giving it to Ty Lue. Give him the keys. He was the assistant.
It would make the most sense, honestly.
In my opinion.
I don't see why you wouldn't. He's head coach before. He's won his championship. He's worked with superstars.
Yes.
So you get everything along with that being somebody, like you said, that's in the system. That's not a lot of change for your players. That's not a huge change for the personnel. It's the easiest transition for a team that is already built essentially to win a championship. It's not like y'all got to go get pieces, this and that. Yep. Y'all can keep that team intact. Y'all just got to be better. That's really all that's down to it. But
Man.
I'm glad this ain't the NCAA because a lot of my bracket would have been busted.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
The whole way around. We're not gonna even talk. I've already discussed Milwaukee, the Bucks. We're not. I'm not giving them no more time on this platform until I see some changes made. Personnel with the team. Look, honestly, truly, if Bud was to go, I wouldn't be upset. I think him for his time with us, but maybe we need a new direction.
I'm
I,
not giving him
I
no more time.
don't even want to wear my Giannis jersey till we figure out what we look like.
Oh my gosh.
Look, man.
Oh wow. I'm not giving him no more time.
That's it. That's all I'm saying on them. They got to do something. That's all I'm saying. All I'm gonna say, they gotta do something. But until next time, like I said, we are gonna work on getting back and being consistent because we definitely want to be able to give y'all this. We know people have been supporting and we thank y'all for that. So we're gonna do better. We're gonna get back to it. But until next time, we hope y'all enjoy. We hope y'all enjoying the finals and
Ashley Wright the first.